the devolution that should have been automatic raises the question of how serious this government is about devolution. And if they don't believe in it, then people will start to draw conclusions. There is more centralisation going to take place in Whitehall as a result of leaving the European Union, because all these powers are going back to Whitehall from Brussels. And so in relation to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, this is a far more centralised Britain that you would have after March next year. And if these powers are not devolved, then they're held in the centre, and the principle of devolution seems to be at risk. But the other issue that I think will concern people, could you not find a way and why are they not discussing a way of giving devolved parliaments or assemblies access to Europe? I mean, for non-devolved areas, why can't the Scottish Parliament or the Welsh Assembly talk to the European Union about measures that would be relevant? I mentioned an investment bank. If Britain doesn't want it, Scotland would want an investment bank, want to have a joint venture with the European Investment Bank, banned under the devolution settlement because it's a foreign treaty. But I see no reason why that shouldn't be able to happen. But what I'm suggesting is not the proposal itself. I'm suggesting we should be thinking about these long-term issues. And instead of a debate that is internally driven by what suits the backseat drivers, the hard Brexiteers of the Conservative Party, because that's what it is. They are the English nationalist tail, if you like, wagging the British bulldog on this occasion. I mean, that's what's happening.
Total Crichton Daily Record. Gordon, you talk about a second EU referendum, inevitably. You must talk about a second Scottish independence referendum. I'm also intrigued by this idea that Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland could bypass Whitehall, could have their own relationships with the European Union. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Scotland is different in this respect. There is no doubt that the Scottish Parliament has ambitions, including Labour, possibly some Conservatives, certainly Liberals as well as Nationalists, to have a role in some of these decisions that would be classified as out of bounds for the Parliament at the moment. And I personally think that you've got to be flexible about these issues. What I've noticed in the last 2 years is a far less flexible attitude to how the union should develop in the future. So you have all the rhetoric about our precious union. These are the words you always get, our precious union. But actually the openness to honouring the devolution settlement has diminished, and that's the problem. So I don't see why the Scottish Parliament shouldn't be able to sign a treaty with the European Union on a devolved matter, not on non-devolved matters, but on a devolved matter. And I don't see why, even if we were outside the European Union, that would be prevented. And I don't see that in devolved areas that Westminster should try to say that this is not possible. So I think that's an open debate about what should happen. Now, again, what I'm trying to do is say there are many options open to us as a country, but we're not having a debate on these at the moment. We're in a very narrow area of whether, and the area is actually, can we get a short-term temporary fix so that the government can actually say that on March the 29th next year they've left the European Union and yet all the questions are unresolved. We should be having a debate that opens up these issues so that the general public can have a view on them.
And a second independence referendum?
I think that's unlikely at the moment.
Here on the aisle.
Thank you. Sean Spears from Green Alliance. A question on devolution. You point out that agriculture and environment are devolved, but of course they were devolved when we were in the European single market. If we leave the European single market and come to have a sort of UK single market, how do you make that work?
Well, this is the issue, isn't it? I mean,
I wonder if you had the answer.
I mean, who decides the parameters of the UK single market now? Because if you've devolved agriculture in principle, as well as some of the powers to the Scottish Parliament, and you've assumed, or people have assumed, that all agriculture would be devolved if we left the European Union, then the Scottish Parliament, the Welsh Assembly and the Northern Ireland Assembly have got to have a role in how you design the internal market of the United Kingdom. And that's what the issue is. The government wants to say centrally, we will define all the rules of the single market, whereas Carwyn Jones, he's been here, hasn't he? And he took a legal action. He took an action in court against the UK government, saying that automatically these powers should have come to Wales. And I don't know if that's resolved in the courts yet, but he believes that under the Constitution setting up the Welsh Assembly, or giving it its latest powers, he has the right to have these powers under law, and then it's for the government of the day to talk to the various assemblies and the Scottish Parliament about how you construct the single market and how you can get an agreement on that.